I'm Ray Benjamin, and this is the In the Cut podcast, where professional writers go to break down their favorite episodes of TV. This season, we're featuring shows that have been honored by the Emmys, and today, we're discussing Reservation Dogs. We in the cut. Reservation Dogs is an FX series created by Sterlin Harjo and Taika Waititi. It follows the exploits of 4 native teens as they plan to ditch their Oklahoma reservation for California. The show earned 5 Emmy nominations during its 3-season run. The pilot episode follows Bear, Elora, Willie Jack, and Cheese as they near the 1-year anniversary of their friend's death. The kids steal a truck to help fund their California dreams, but Bear regrets the decision. This episode is brought to you by Roadstar Detailing LA, which provides mobile car wash services in the greater Los Angeles area. For more info or to schedule a car wash, visit roadstarDetailingLA.com. And here to help me talk Reservation Dogs is my dog, Sebastián.
Hey.
So Sebastián was a staff writer on Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy, which will be on Peacock. And he was a fellow in the NBCU TV Writers Program, which is excellent, hard to get into. So still congrats on that.
Thank you.
And before that, you work for J-Lo, which got to get the T on that.
Yes, Queen Mother.
And you are a real New Yorker, which I feel is rare. I'm from LA, and I always meet people like, oh, you're actually from LA? That's crazy. I feel like people that are actually from New York, that's a rarity. So
Well, real recognized real here. I always say proper from LA, and I love meeting people from LA because they're just a different vibe, more natural.
People.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like transplants give LA natives a bad name. Everything you hate, it's not us. It's the people that come from other places. They give us a bad name. So before we get into talking about Reservation Dogs, we're going to play a little game called Fade In, Fade Out. Basically, I'm going to give out some rapid fire statements on theme with the episode. If you're here for it, say fade in, flip the sign. You don't like it, fade out. Shall we begin?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right.
The first one is hot chips, Takis, hot Cheetos.
Taki.
See, not me. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Okay.
My stomach, it doesn't like the Takis.
There's a time and a place for all of it, you know?
Fade in, fade out. Paintball.
Oh.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I've never actually played paintball,
Really?
but it's like since I was a child, it's been my dream.
Okay.
I feel like it's a very easy dream to accomplish. It's
never too late. You could do a little day out in the paintball range.
Need to do that. Living in California.
Can we do like a mid real quick?
He's like halfway. I'm fading. Obviously, I'm a California native.
Yeah.
You are from New York, so you're kind of here for it.
I do love the weather.
That is true. That's why people come here. Reservoir Dogs, the movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you gotta fade in on that.
Yeah,
it's a classic. That's what the show pays homage to.
There you go.
And last but not least, fried catfish. I'm gonna say fade out too.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. It's a
Me
little
either.
chewy.
Yeah, I know. Black people, we're supposed to like catfish. Not me.
Yeah,
Don't get mad.
It's a taste, you know?
So why did you choose this episode of Reservation Dogs?
Man, Reservation Dogs. This episode really inspired me to approach my writing in a different way. It was one of the first times I completely felt seen also. I may not be Native American from North America, but I am indigenous from South America. And seeing this representation automatically clicked with me. I knew who everybody was, and I wanted to be in this world, and I wanted to be with these characters. And specifically for my writing, we can get into this later, but when Bear meets his spirit guide, that for me, that magical realism aspects of it, something that I have been reading my whole life in, 100 Years of Solitude and House of the Spirits, really like culminated for me when I saw this show, and I was like, wait a minute, let me bring that to my writing because it really speaks to me. And I added a spirit guide to my first sample, which got me into the launch program. And I feel like that really like is something that executives, showrunners, other writers really talk to me about, being like, oh, those big swings in that script, in your script, I really appreciated, and made them maybe see something in me that maybe wasn't in the pilot, but something that I definitely had, I guess, like inherently in my writing.
Wow, so Reservation Dogs really changed your life.
It really did, 100%. I tell everybody to check this show out. It's one of the most important shows, I think, of our time, really.
That is so cool to hear. I didn't know that story. So let's get into the show. So it opens with this really cool radio voiceover that does a great job of establishing the setting, and we're hearing that as we see Bear, Willie Jack, Cheese, and Elora sort of hijack this chips truck. And that scene is so great because, Bear is worried about seatbelt safety while Elora is just trying to be a badass. And really, just from those opening lines, we immediately understand who these characters are by what they say. So how do you think this show is an example for writers to use dialogue effectively?
First, I need to shout out the beginning of Reservation Dogs. There's a Smoke Signals intro homage. I don't know if you've seen that film, but it's an old indigenous North American movie, and they open up with like a radio guy talking to the town, and it's like telling the town about what's going on, the weather, things to look out for, some super superstitious stuff. So when they did that in here, I was like, like that meme with Leo, he's like, and this is also why I really love this show, is because it's such a like cinematic, like cinema fan show where they do homages left and right. Really love that. And the writing, like you just stated, everybody is so particular and specific. Immediately what type of character Bear is. He's like maybe a little softer, but still trying to come into his own age. And then Elora's just, like you said, being a badass. She's like, fuck this, let's out. My seatbelt, I can't be a badass wearing a seatbelt, and you get to learn Cheese and Willie Jack, who I love too, who's also very specific, her tone and voice. So I think it teaches writers right out the gate, like, you need to have your characters stand out, speak in a specific manner, because that's your first way into your characterization, and whether or not you're going to be intrigued about this character and then follow them on later on.
That is so true. We had talked about Abbott Elementary in another episode of the podcast. I think that's another show that the characters feel so specific. Like, you can't take a line from one character and give it to someone else because they're so specific. Exactly. And I think Reservation Dogs is definitely up there in terms of character quality, and I don't think it gets love enough, so shout out to them. So after this scene, they drop off the chip truck to these meth heads for money, but then they negotiate to keep the chips so they can sell them later. And then at school, we get this great scene with Bear showing one of his home movies as a homework assignment that really reveals who he is as like a lover of film, but it also basically sets up a lot of exposition in a clever way. So how do you think, we can deliver exposition in ways that feel fresh and not so stale?
Yeah, I think this is why I say that this episode and this series really is like a filmmaker's 101, because like you said, they show exposition in a really interesting way. It's in a short little film. He's quickly telling you and showing you clips of what they do and how they hang out, and you're getting the environment, you're getting who's there, you're getting the vibe, and I think that's brilliant. It's very important to create creative ways to, provide that exposition, because you're trying to get a lot out there in your stories, I'm sure. And so, is it a flashback? Is it, a news in the corner? Is it a really cool way like this video, or somebody just talking to somebody? I think if you can really crack open how to show your characters in this like creative way, it's so important. It will just elevate your script in the first pages immediately, which is very important, when people are reading.
Exactly. You need to nail those first pages or people are not going to continue reading, unfortunately. So I think that way of showing exposition is one I hadn't really seen, like a little kids homework assignment. I think was very cleverly done.
Yeah, and I think it also like keeps the momentum going, because like you start really high off with the heist, and then you go to the chopping up of the truck, and then you're going to him talking about like his skating, his friends and everything. So it's very fast, and you're getting like information really quick, and you're never thinking like, oh wait, like let me pause, like what did he just say? Like for some reason, the way that it's done so clearly, it sticks with you. And I think also because the actors are charismatic. I think for me, it stuck with me immediately because I lived this life. Like I used to steal bikes as a teenager in my neighborhood. We used to like bring it to the garage, chop it up, take the parts out, sell the parts, keep the parts for ourselves, and like at the end of the day, then we would sell it just like they would sell the chips at other prices, right? And then I went to a very Catholic school in Queens, and so every other weekend in like presentation of our class, like in 5th grade or whatever, I would talk about my adventures with my friends, and teacher would be like, oh, that looks kind of illegal, or oh, maybe we shouldn't talk about this. But I had that life, and that's for me, that's why everything just like resonated so clearly for me.
This was a documentary for
Literally,
you.
Basically, I was like, they had cameras growing up, like I didn't sign anything.
That's hilarious. So after that scene, we see the kids, setting up their little chip shop, and we see these other 3 kids sort of eyeballing them, foreshadowing like something sketchy is going to happen eventually. But, we learn that their plan is to use all this money that they've been stealing to escape to California. Bear is very hesitant about that because, we see in the earlier scene, he really loves his mom. The first time in teenage history, he's sneaking money into the mom's wallet, which again is such a beautiful character moment for Bear. How does this really show who he is instead of telling the audience?
I love the scene where he sees his mom and she's singing TLC.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is, and another way to show character immediately, right? Like she's obviously from the 90s, she's young, she's like still in that space, and you get into her head. And I think for Bear too, like I think the show does a really good job of like spinning the head on what we think or expect. Like we see these like almost like bad kids. Yeah, these like they're hoodlums. They're like selling. They're chopping us stuff up. They're entrepreneurs, really, right? But I think like you really see that. Oh no, he's a good kid. Like these are kids that are trying to make the best of a situation, and which is probably another reason why I really resonated with this, because, as an immigrant coming into a lower income neighborhood in Queens from Ecuador, we try to make the best situation out of what we have, and I think like this show does that beautifully.
It does. It's such a beautiful show. So eventually those, same sketchy kids return and have a paintball drive-by shooting, which is very beautifully shot with, Bear. Like, it was like Boys in the Hood. Like, when he gets shot, he like, falls back. Like, falls back. Yeah. And so we get that great surrealist moment out of that where he's transported to, like, talk to the ancestors. I know you talked about how much it inspired you, but what did you really love most about that scene? Why did it inspire you so much?
Well, another thing, taking documentary from my life, the friends in my neighborhood, we would shoot each other with paintball guns in the park. Like we would have shootouts, in our block, at night. We'd like just shoot each other. Sometimes we'd get neighbors or like break windows. And so when I saw that, I was like, what? Like,
Man,
but also a testament to storytelling, right? Like, we all have these collective experiences, and we don't know who's experiencing this or living this somewhere else, but people, have similar experiences, and I feel like that's another beautiful aspect of the storytelling. But I think like it just segues you in. You don't really know what to expect. You think you're going for one type of story in this episode, and then all of a sudden it's in this surreal moment where he sees his spirit guide. He's obviously like unconscious. It's like played for that surreal aspect, and the spirit guy is not even somebody of memorable note, right?
He's like a random warrior. Yeah. He's like, oh, you're crazy horse sitting bull. Nah.
No. Like, I died before it happened, right? Like, but that's another testament to the storytelling. Like, it turns its head, right? We always expect from these marginalized communities the one or two notable, recognizable figures that we're gonna talk about, right? Like, and I'm a little tired of that, and I love that they were just like, no, just like a regular, Indian fighting with the rest of them, and I'm here like still doing the work of our ancestors. We're just like guiding lost souls and spirits, and I found you, and I'm gonna help you. And I just feel like the grounded, down to earth way that was like designed. I just loved it so much. It spoke to me. It like demystified the magical realism aspects that we're used to, which is very like traditional way of showing it. And here it was just like grounded, talking normally, naturalistic. And also kind of teaching you a lesson, at the same time, not just being like, this is for laughs, but I'm going to help you on your journey as you come of age. And which is something we all wish we had, right? And so for me specifically, it really spoke to me. And bringing those aspects from what I saw in the episode into my own writing and translating it to fit for myself, I really it really worked for me and opened up opportunity, and also just, I guess, my own craft, like how I approach my writing, and it maybe like also helped me grow a little bit too.
Yeah, I love what you said about how the warrior was not some mystical figure. He felt very humanized, but his message was still like, what are you doing for your people? Like in my day, we all did this. So it showed that you didn't have to be some extraordinary individual to help your people. You could just be some random figure and contribute to people's lives in the exact same manner.
Yeah. Exactly.
So then the twins sort of roll up. They're my favorite characters. So funny. Their little raps. Yeah. The twins roll up and they tell the kids, there's a new gang in town. And, we told them you guys were like the hardest in the town, the Res Bandits. And, like Bear is sort of not with it. Yeah. He has no desire to be in a gang, to be fighting these people. That also speaks to Bear. So they go to their favorite little catfish hangout, and they spot the truck driver who they had robbed in the opening scene. And to me, this is my favorite moment of the podcast, where the truck driver just going on and on and on. It ruined his life. His wife has left him. All he has is a bag of sugar now. He's gonna get diabetes. He's gonna cut off his foot. And he just keeps going on and on.
So dramatic.
And Bear just like he seems to be the only one that cares. The other kids give zero fucks. But Bear is really moved by hearing how this truck driver's life is ruined. And it's a great moment because it really could have been dramatic, like this man talking about how his life is ruined, but they play it for humor instead, similar to how you were talking about the spirit realm, the ancestors played for humor. How do you think the show is so wonderful at balancing sort of darker themes with humorous moments?
I think that just goes to show that trauma stories and trauma representations of our stories, specifically people of color, marginalized people, historically marginalized people, we no longer need that approach to our stories. Like, yes, we live these stories every day, and if you make one showcase about it, it may be tragic for those plays, but in real life, it's not always tragic. Like there is joy, even though, we're in a certain environment. There is ways to find access points where we're happy, and we're living normal lives. And I feel like this is why the show also does a spectacular job in representing us, and in representing like people that normally don't get the Hollywood treatment. We are shown here in a way where an honest, innocent way, instead of like a judgmental way. way. And Bear for us is many of us, right? Like there's always that one kid, or at least one time when you're hanging out with your neighborhood kids and you're doing something bad or stealing, you're like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't steal this one thing, or damn, maybe I feel really bad like ditching the dinner, right? Like, or the taxi. But you do it anyway because your friends are doing it. And so I think this also just is a call to all of our coming of age experiences where we balance good and bad. Like, does this mean if I want to be good, can I not hang out with my friends anymore, right? Like, are we all shifting? We're all growing. And I think it's really cool later on when Elora comes back to him and is like, here's the money, like as a truce, right? Like, let's do it. Like, you're right, you know?
Yeah, it's a very beautiful show, and I love the character of Bear. I think he's so great, and even the actor is really amazing, in my opinion. So back at the hideout, you know, Bear suggests that they give the money back. Everyone else is like, no. I love that line where they're like, we got it fair and fucking square. Bear's like, we robbed. What are you talking about? That's not fair and square. And they just double down, fair and square.
Well, because they feel like they've been robbed, right? Like historically, like it's really like they're talking to two audiences in this, and I love that it happens that way.
Yes, I love the argument between Elora and Bear. When I was a writer's assistant on Bridgerton, one of the writers on the show was telling me that whenever you write an argument scene, it only works if both characters have a valid POV. They both need to be right. If one person's clearly wrong, it's just not a compelling scene. So how do you think both Elora and Bear are right in this argument?
Yeah, I think there's the duality there of like, do I stay? Do I go? You know, they've been trying to leave the reservation for so long, and Elora's like gung ho. She's tired of it. She represents like the more action-driven personality, and Bear's kind of like trying to be level-headed and balance everything out because he does love his mom. He loves his community. He feels like at the end of the show, you know, he says, you know, we have to stay and protect our people. We can't just leave. And that honor and almost like pride for where he comes from bubbles to the top. And I think like having both of them be so different is what brings us into the drama and brings us into the realistic nature of how we resolved our like coming of age, right? And like we know there's gonna be a bigger rift between them. You could see it happening, right? Even though, you know, they bump heads and they're cool and they bump heads again, but you could see like they're not gonna agree all the time, and you're kind of waiting for that as well as a viewer. And in real life, you know, not all friendships are always the best. You know, some of the best series with best friends, like Insecure, right? Like they're always fighting, but then they come together, and like our friends too, we have disagreements, and I feel like it just grounds it makes it more real. And they're both playing their argument like they're both right. Like you said, like they need to get their point across, and who's gonna give first? Who maybe one gives now, but one's gonna not give later, you know? So it creates the stakes and it raises them.
Yeah, I love there's so much conflict in this episode, whether it's between the friends or outside forces with the bullies, the cop character. There's just so much going on that it's a great pilot episode that sets up and just that intrigues you enough to keep watching the rest of the series. So, as you said, Elora, you know, she feels bad and she gives her money back, but, you know, she's not going to convince the others to do the same. So they try to go back to the tweakers and get the truck back, but, you know, it's already been chopped up for parts.
Yeah, I mean,
they lost.
Hot commodity, you know, like can't stay fresh forever.
They lost that battle. And then the episode sort of, one of the scenes towards the end is that memorial scene for their friend Daniel, who has passed away, that they've been referencing throughout the episode. And it's such a beautiful scene. They're wearing their suits like Reservoir Dogs. Can you describe that scene for me?
Yeah, well, another beautiful moment in this. And just it makes us so vulnerable, where you have these best friends commemorating their past friend who had just passed away, and they're almost like to his memory they want to leave California. I mean, they want to leave the res and go to Cali because they're like, that was his dream, right? And the res got to him before he could get out. And I mean, I really resonated with that too, because we would have friends of ours that, you know, would end up getting locked up, or one of our friends passed away very early, and we were just, you know, all having to deal with these very adult situations at a young age. And at that point, like specifically for me, like my parents were working, you know, everybody was trying to maximize their opportunities, and we had each other, you know, and nobody taught us to be like, oh, we should go to the funeral, we should go to the cemetery and like stop and pray. Maybe we couldn't get to the cemetery, you know, or we didn't know where the cemetery was, but, you know, we had photos, and we would go to our favorite hangout spot, or down by the water, by the rocks in the East River, and we just like sit and talk about him. And what I love about this scene too is like, even though they're so sad, they still laugh about it, right? And they're still like in tears, but also joking that, you know, if you were here, you would have found this funny too. Like, and I think it's so heartwarming and raw, but also like innocent. And I think it really captures the nature of this series, where they bring up these coming of age situations dealt with very like with like care, and make sure that everybody feels like they've given their part. Yeah, it was just a beautiful, beautiful scene.
Yeah, it is. I love that scene. So as they're sort of leaving... go on.
Also wanted to say about that scene, which I loved, is like how the friends like cry with each other, you know, and even though there's boys, girls, like they're crying together, and there's no shame in that, and they comfort each other. And to see like a male character cry with his friends and, you know, embrace, it's beautiful, and we don't see that enough. And I know, like when I was growing up, you know, I'm getting chills just talking about it. Like, you know, we would be with our friends who were our boys, right? We would hang out with, and they're like your brothers, you know? So I wish we had more of that celebration of masculine, emotional bonding. You know, we don't see it enough.
Yeah, it's great you bring that up. I hadn't thought of that, but it's so true, especially with teenagers. You know, you don't see teen boys being vulnerable a lot on camera. It reminds me of the show Forever on Netflix. I was watching an interview with the creator Mara Brock-Akil, and she was saying how she wanted to create this like black teenage boy that was not cool. He was not hypersexualized. He was just kind of like a nerd that got in his feels and cried, because that is a reality for a lot of teens that we don't actually get to see on screen. So I'm glad it was portrayed in Reservation Dogs, like you said. So at the end, you know, the Indian mafia rolls by again. And, you know, the twins pop up and they're like, hey, we're calling you the Res Dogs. You didn't like Res Bandits, you know, the Reservation Dogs. Me personally, I love nothing more that when like the show's title is mentioned in the show.
Yes,
that's like my favorite thing. Do you like that? I know some people are like, oh, it's so corny, but I love it.
I love it too. Especially in movies and TV shows, whenever they say the title, I'm like,
yes, I love it. It's my favorite.
I love that. It also just like it you know, it just creates the circle, like it completes the story for me, and in a really good way. I do love that. And I do love that they got their name from somebody else in their hood, right?
Yes.
Like, which is how, you know, I would get named, you know, nicknamed from like the other people in our hood. They would just call you that, and then it stuck, and everybody called you that. So it's very accurate, and I thought that was hilarious too.
Me too. So, you know, the last scene is Bear, you know, he doesn't want to be the bad guy. He's reflecting on, you know, what the ancestor told him, with the truck driver, what he saw, and he's like, you know, we need to stop doing this. We're going to be vigilantes. We're not going to be the criminals. Yeah. We're going to be vigilantes. We're going to be doing this for our people, and I think that's a beautiful setup to end the show and set it up for the rest of the series.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it leaves you at that good cliffhanger where you're just like, okay, now they're going to take it to the next level. The stakes are higher. I also love the Indian Mafia because it makes the episode feel almost like a Western.
Yes.
Right? You know, where like there's already your set people. Yeah, he's like the new big bad, and he's going to like beat the other bad up, and now he's taking charge, and now you have this like new villain in town, which is hilarious. And I love that like when they get approached by the Indian mafia, like the main driver's white. He's like
guy,
the redhead, and he's just like thugged out.
Indian mafia. Yeah. Are you an Indian?
It's so funny, but and I think it also like talks about that too, just like the representation of what an Indian looks like today. You know, there's so much of the mixing from colonialization that, you know, I know a lot of people sometimes they're like, oh, I'm 10%, 5%, whatever, but you know, we never know, and sometimes
we call those
they are
pretending.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like I felt like they have all these subtle jokes and insider moments for people that experience this type of life, you know?
Yeah, honestly, in rewatching this episode, I'd watched the show when it first came out, but I hadn't rewatched the pilot since it came out. Rewatching this, I recently had to rewatch Atlanta for the podcast. I'm like, oh, I feel like this show is inspired by Atlanta for sure. Like the magical realism vibes, just the characters reminded me of Atlanta, and I think Atlanta gets a lot of love for, you know, changing the culture, but I don't think Reservation Dogs gets that same amount of love, and I would say it's on par with her.
I totally agree too. I think there's so many aspects of, like, I mean, Atlanta has to be a huge inspiration for Reservation Dogs. Like the situational, like approach
especially
to the
next episode where they are at the Indian hospital. I'm like, this seems like exactly like an Atlanta
literally. And I think what makes Atlanta so special, because it's so specific, same way that Reservation Dogs is very specific, it really speaks to a certain type of, I guess, middle class, lower income neighborhood type of experience. And I think it also just specializes that by adding that magical realism to it, because our life, I mean, I feel like our lives are magical, right? And then we have moments where we're just like, oh, this is a movie, you know, or, you know, when we celebrate these things. And I feel like after watching Atlanta and Reservation Dogs, it really encouraged me to kind of make a series about my life where it's situational also, just like different moments of my life that like really changed the course of where I was going, or my whole like perspective, and make it funny and self-deprecating, you know, and I feel like those shows are so well done, and like we need more of those.
I 100% agree. So thank you. Our time with Reservation Dogs has now come to an end. But will you stick around and answer a couple questions about your career?
Yeah, hell yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Every summer, In the Cut hosts a retreat. It's a chance for writers to come together and relax, build connection with professionals, and create intentional space to complete their work. You can reserve your spot for our 2026 retreat now, but act quickly, it will sell out. For more info, visit inthecutla.org/retreat. I'm back with Sebastián Rea, and he's here to answer a couple questions about his career. So you were in the NBCU Writers Launch program. That's how I met you, actually, when I hosted an event on the Universal lot. So a lot of new writers are applying for these fellowships. They're very competitive, hard to get into. Do you have any advice for writers on how they can make their applications stand out?
Yeah, no, I mean, you need to apply to these programs every year. I applied to this thing like twice before I got it. I applied to every writing program, every grant, every lab, every directing program, lab, at least 20 to 30 a year.
Wow.
And I would do it every year, you know? And someone told me one time that it's like a numbers game. So the more you do it, the more you put yourself out there, a file on you grows, you know what I mean? Which is also good, I guess. So never be discouraged by it. I mean, maybe take off 1 year if you need to, you know, because you feel like I'm not getting anything. There have been years where like I've applied and not gotten nothing, you know, and I know how shitty it feels because you feel like you're not getting a break in. But just keep applying. Those are one of the best ways, I think, to break it into this industry, especially for people that don't have a pipeline for it. Actually, for the writing aspects of it, I'd make sure that your pilots are very propulsive. And I think like the energy needs to be up constantly. I sometimes even in my earlier writing, I would like, you know, ornate to be really ornate with my writing. I would like, you know, have a paragraph here describe this, have a paragraph here describe that, like a novel, right? Because I love writing, so I'm gonna fill it up. But for scripts, it's actually the opposite. Like the white on the page can actually play a greater advantage for you if there is more white sometimes and there is just words. So what I tell people and myself also is just make it propulsive. Less he did this, she did that, and then he did this. I would just did this, you know, just to keep the momentum going, at least if it's for a few lines. I think that really helps cut down your pages as well. I'd also make sure that the first 10 pages of your script are like the most captivating that you can make it. Like, look at Reservation Dogs. There's a heist, there's a chop, you know, before the title sequence comes. So there is that energy there that just helps you learn about who's who. You're establishing your characters, because in Reservation Dogs you saw each character, what type they are and who they play as they're robbing the car. And I think like if you can do that in your script, you're already like ahead of 50% of the scripts. And I think also what you need to do is at least show the promise of the series, show like the promise, like the engine of the pilot, because unfortunately, you know, a lot of executives don't even read the scripts, and it's their assistants, right? So you want to get past through those gatekeepers, and the only way to do that is to make sure your first 10 pages are fire. They need to be. Even look at one of my other favorite series, Pose. The opening, they're robbing the museum, right? And they're going to the first
robbing.
ball. Yeah, start with robbing. Start with a criminal activity. It'll help you get at least 5 pages.
A lot of
you know?
like Breaking Bad, Atlanta. They're shooting a lot of great shows.
Exactly.
Starts with crime.
I think they all do. Like How to Get Away with Murder, one of my favorite ones. They're at the bonfire, right? There's a murder. Like, what happened to the murder? So I think that's really important in like trying to etch out your pilots. I think the other thing would be to try to attend as many events in person that you can that are like industry events. You'd be surprised at how small the industry actually is. Even smaller if you're in like cultural groups like Latino filmmakers, Black filmmakers, Indigenous filmmakers, queer filmmakers, like female filmmakers. Everybody like has their own little group. And I'm sure you all fit in one of those, even more of those groups, right? So try to get in. I think like I never thought about moving to LA. I was a diehard New Yorker. You know, you could not get me out of there. But you know, the first thing that got me out was Jennifer Lopez. But besides that, I was like, it was the programs, and really they showed me like, do one here, get plugged into the community, and then now you're in LA and it's your home. And I think I would probably move to LA sooner, knowing what I know now. I just think, I mean, if you want to write in TV and work in Hollywood specifically, like there's the proximity to the gatekeepers is right there. Yeah. You know, and I can't tell you the many times that I've gone to events, parties, networking, screenings, whatever, met the programmers of these festivals, of these grants, of the labs, and you just create that one-to-one face. It's so valuable. Mm-hmm. And I know being writers too, like creative, sometimes it's not easy to go and like talk to 20 people, talk about the same thing. Like, I get it, it's the worst. But it's basically currency, you know. At least I see it that way. Like, unless you have a way in or you are a child, so it's nepotism. Like, you need to do the work, right? And sometimes getting out of your comfort zone, which is probably one of the best ways to know that you're actually growing, is to put yourself out there and do the work. You know, I was taught to network at a very young age because I knew that nobody was going to open any doors for me. Who was going to let this Ecuadorian kid from Queens like work on a movie? Like, nobody. So I had to go meet those people that are gatekeepers, and I asked everybody when I was younger, a teenager, like, can I intern for you? Can I intern for Tribeca, where I first started? I tried volunteering and interning for like 5 years until I got a job working there out of college. Working on set, carrying lights, doing anything small, like it just put yourself out there. It really helps. And the last thing I would probably say is for your scripts to read tons of scripts. Like just read your favorite shows, read pilots, read pilot episodes, read feature scripts, read just scripts in general. I mean, reading in general will help you, novels, books, whatever, comics, like everything will help. But if you can maybe watch your favorite episode, read the script at the same time. I think for me, what also helped me was when I got into TV writing, because also low-key, I never thought I'd be a TV writer. I always wanted to write features. That was my way in. And I never thought TV would be a viable place for me creatively. But it wasn't until I started to get these opportunities in TV writing that I was like, I could be working closer to the industry. Maybe I'm not, directing my own stuff yet, but at least I'm getting a little closer than like being an assistant at a corporate job for a distribution company. So I definitely would say like try to put yourself in uncomfortable spots and grow, force yourself to grow. Yeah.
Those are all great tips. So many gems in there. As you mentioned, you worked for the one and only J-Lo. So I feel like a lot of people these days, maybe it's just me, I feel like a lot of people don't want to be assistants anymore. I was also an assistant and I found it immensely helpful. So do you think that being an assistant was, a crucial step on your path to success, or what did you learn from being an assistant?
Yeah, no, like I said, never thought I'd be in this. I never thought I'd be TV writing because I wanted to do features. For me, I was so precious about my art and like my filmmaking technique that it was kind of snobby. I think about it now, I'm like, oh, it's so cringe. But when my friend offered me the job to work on Shotgun Wedding, which was Jennifer Lopez's movie, they were my best friend, Courtney Baxter. She needed an assistant for the director, Jason Moore, because they were going to shoot in the Dominican Republic. They were going to be there for 6 months. They needed somebody to speak Spanish to translate.
Like a free vacation.
Yeah, and I was like, this was the pandemic as well, so I was like, okay, I might do it, but my first instinct was like, no, because I want to make cinema. Hello, I want to go to Cannes. I want to get the Palme d'Or, now work on a Hollywood film. But my best friend was like, no, you stop being stupid. If you want to get into Hollywood, this is your way in. Try it. So I said, okay. I tried it. I was his assistant. That job alone got me so much knowledge. It was like a masterclass for directing. Jason Moore was such a gracious, creative, amazing director. We clicked immediately. We're both queer, so we both trusted our sensibilities. He knew I was a filmmaker as well, and he saw my work. So we were so hectic during the shooting of the film that he actually let me do some things like cast the extras. I got to, pick some of the costumes. I got to, add some lines in Spanish for Jennifer to say and her family. And it was all because I had that rapport with the director. I really let him know what I wanted, which was to direct one day. And he saw the hunger in me and maybe the creative inclinations that I showed him. And I grew so much. I learned as the assistant to the director in that moment, I was the liaison between him and all the departments. So I got to talk to costumes, stunts, production design, props, acting, everybody. I'd had to go through me to get to the director. So I had to know everything as well, about what was going on. So in a way, I almost felt like I was directing that movie too, even though I wasn't, but it felt like, oh shit, I have some stake here. And after that production was done, we went all the way through post, which I assisted through post as well, which is another beast in the process. And just being his one-to-one, I was able to learn what he saw, what he looked for in post, the difference between his director's cut compared to the final cut, and then you see how he manages all the execs, that are putting in their 10 cents because they all got 10 cents and there's 10 different execs. So how do you balance these cuts? What do you do? It just taught me ways to navigate executives, navigate the $1 million budget, right? This movie was huge. And it taught me so much invaluable stuff. I would completely do it again. I would tell everybody assisting is very important because after that, it also like opened me up to other opportunities. After that, Jennifer's camp, New Yorican, they were looking for a full-time production assistant for her. And since I had already worked with them, Jennifer liked me, Courtney had my back, they were like, do you want the job? It's yours. You'd have to move to LA. And I was like, fuck, I don't know if I want to move to LA, but I had this J-Lo job, which was amazing, and I also had, at the same time, I had won the Indigenous Inclusion Grant at Netflix and La Leaf. Cool. So I was able to make a short film and premiere it here in LA, and that short film was Heritage, which ended up, I turned it into a pilot, which was the pilot that I got into the NBC program with, and in between, while I was working with the J-Lo, we did like maybe 5 movie productions in 4 years. Very prolific. Wow. We're working every day we're working, but on set we're like there, 6 months, and take a break for 2-3 months, on set again. So in between, I was always writing, and I feel like that job was really good. I mean, I did have side gigs, like I worked at an ice cream shop. My first year here in LA, I handed out condoms and WeHo. Like I needed money, right? Like I wanted to do all this, but I also had to pay the rent. And so I was writing in between, submitting to all the programs still, and then I got the Outfest Screenwriters Lab before RIP Outfest closed down, but I got that lab, and that's where I turned my short film Heritage into the short pilot sample, which got me into NBC. And I could not have done that without the time and the work that was put in with working with New Yorican and with Jennifer and the team out there, Elaine and Courtney and everybody. It's just been, they've been so gracious to me, giving me the chance to come up in that world, but also I did my job right. Like they trusted me, and I had to have certain information for Jennifer during the set, during production. So she's trusting me. I'm doing my job right. Like it's empowering, and also it enables other people to see you and see, okay, this man is working well under pressure. He's worked with Hollywood A-listers. He's worked with $1 million budgets. Like he understands that. So then when I did the NBC room, like I said, I never thought about getting into TV because I was like very precious about my opportunities. But working with Jennifer and New Yorican was like, oh, I can do like commercial stuff and still have a message, but also like be lucrative, be profitable, and that's what we want. And Jennifer always told me too, like there's a way to Trojan horse message into any story if you really think about it, and that quickly enabled me to like, okay, I'm gonna like lean into my commerciality voice, see what I can do there. And I think at NBC that's also what they look for, because commerciality is not like a negative term. For so long I was like, ooh, commercial, gross, sellout. But no, it's not. It's like you want to make the story more universal. The more commercial it is, the more people are going to be paying attention, the more people are going to listen. Your access point to the story is greater. And don't you want more people to be invested into your story, to see your art? Exactly. So I think working there really helped me put into perspective my writing and where I can apply it, and then also shooting as well. While I was writing I got to write my own episode, which was amazing. Shout out to Patrick McManus. It was just I was writing. I was thinking like, oh, like production wise, is this gonna cost too much?
Oh, because you knew.
Because I knew already on production, like everything costs money. Even though I added like, the top 20 music Billboard charts in my script that would never made it into the episode, but it just provided vibes. I knew like the value of maybe the character doesn't need to come out the car and walk into the building. Maybe he can just be in the building. So little things like that really helped me, and it helped the executives see at NBCU, Peacock, and UCP like, oh, like he's not just writing as a writer, he's writing with like his director hat, producer hat, and which is what I want to do. I want to direct episodes, I want to direct features. And I think they all saw that. So it all kind of like came to fruition at the same time.
That's wonderful. Seems like every opportunity built upon the next, and it all led to your success.
Exactly. And I feel like somebody told me too once that it's not luck or anything, it's like your preparation. Because if you are doing the work and you're preparing, when the moment of luck comes, you're ready.
You're ready, yeah.
And you're just smooth sailing that way.
That's so true. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Your
you.
Insight, like you had me learning about Reservation Dogs, all the advice you've given, I'm sure it'll help someone. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love your podcast. You know, you have so many great writers come on and I listen to all the time just to get insight, and it really helps me come out of like writer blocks, or sometimes when I'm just not feeling it, pop on your podcast and I'm like good to go for the next few hours, you know? So thank you for doing the work. Like, this is really valuable to a lot of us.
That's amazing to hear. Well, I'm glad you can listen to yourself now.
Oh, I will. Believe me.
Thanks again to our guests, Sebastián, to Sterlin Harjo, and Taika Waititi for creating such a great show. If you like this episode of the podcast, do me a favor, like, follow, and subscribe. You can watch the video on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're also on the gram. We're on TikTok. Check the links in the description for those social handles. If you want to advertise with us, shoot us an email, podcast@inthecutla.org. And until next time, stay in the cut.